Now I'd like to talk to you about something I've thought a lot about and struggled with throughout my life, and that's the subject of time. Have any of you ever struggled with dealing with time? Well, when I was growing up, my grandmother that we called Nana, she was an astrophysicist, and she would take me out to look at the night sky and tell me stories about outer space, Greek myths, sunspots, shooting stars, and the sense of wonder was infinite to me in those moments. And looking out at you today, I feel I am again looking at a galaxy of stars, each of you glowing with your own sense of possibility. Yet, when we see a star, we are seeing the past, as the light has traveled far. When I see you, I see the future, not the past. We live in a world framed by the three dimensions of space, but it is actually the fourth dimension, time, that holds many of the secrets to your future success. So let me share a few observations with you about time. Time is infinite, but our time on Earth is actually finite. Around 36,500 days if you live to be 100. Time is an interrelated paradox of past, present, and future. We live in the now, but humans are amazing beings who can imagine themselves at different moments in time. We can live in the past, and often do, wishing we could rectify past mistakes. Or we spend time dreaming or even worrying about the future. Both habits, ironically, come at the expense of enjoying the here and now. What's for me especially mystifying about time is that we don't often value it until it's too late or something dramatic happens. We have a cornucopia of time until we don't. Did any of you notice how fast the end at Darden came, but how slow the beginning seemed to be? Well, I learned this lesson about time from an incredibly challenging moment in my life, when my mother died suddenly at age 51 of pancreas cancer. From diagnosis to death, it was about 2 weeks. That day, I learned that the most precious resource in the world is time. And it's also a riddle, kind of a conundrum. It's an unknown known. We know time will end, but we don't know when. I didn't know what to do, but I concluded I'd better get a lot better at mastering it. So how can you make the most of your time? How can you shift from being mastered by time to becoming its master? Let me share with you a few lessons I have learned, most of them the hard way, and maybe some of them will help you. The first lesson is to view time as an asset. Time is more like a balance sheet item, Luann, than an income statement. To what extent are you investing your time in long-term value creation and things that matter? One of the great freedoms we have in life is to decide how we spend our time. Make investments of time that are explicit to yourself. Recognize that investments of time pay off over time. They compound in value and in unforeseen ways. The opportunity, quote unquote, cost of time and the translation of your time into value actually changes over time. Value is not only measured in dollars. For example, what is the value of spending time coaching your child's sports team? How much is that worth? In French, there's this beautiful expression. It says, "Donnez le temps au temps." Give time to time. In other words, some good things, like relationships or wine, have a natural rhythm and they actually need time. And sometimes you need to invest time to get time. Very counterintuitive. Part of seeing time as an asset is to realize that different goals have different time frames and payoffs. Personal goals might include things like family, passions or hobbies, or using key values and character traits that are important to you. Professional goals might include things like money, skills, experiences, or some kind of milestone that you may have. All have their own time frames, currencies, alphas, and betas, just like different asset classes. Long-term goals might include things like financial independence by a certain age, building a company that makes the world a better place, raising a wonderful family, or helping other talented people achieve their full potential. Short-term goals, however, might be able to be adjusted on a daily basis to reflect the ever-changing environment we live in, such as completing a deliverable or maybe squeezing a workout in. Periodically think about what your goals are and how you allocate time to them. As you discover what really matters to you and as your life circumstances change. Because time is an asset, you need to build a diversified portfolio. As you reach for the stars and you want it all on every axis of life, consider that not all items that take time have the same value, and not all items that are valuable take a lot of time. For example, I learned that client development takes roughly the same amount of time to negotiate a small project as to negotiate a big one. In your personal life, spending an hour with a loved one at the right moment may be invaluable. That 1 hour may have just been all that mattered. Create option value for yourself by experimenting with time or allocating small amounts to something you know is valuable to you. Balance your portfolio with some big and little things you are shooting for. Get the big things right: your career, your family, your health. Every portfolio will have some failures in it. That's what happens. But all good portfolios will be diversified and have some grand slams. The second lesson is to use the power of the calendar. Simply said, what gets scheduled gets done. To achieve your goals, get your defaults broadly right and use the power of the calendar. Aristotle famously said, "We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence is therefore a habit." Let me ask you something. Are the things you do repeatedly those at which you really want to excel? What default activities do you schedule daily, monthly, annually? What consumes your time? I have found several defaults to be critical for maintaining the productivity of your total time over time. No one else will schedule these defaults for you if you don't. So they include some of the following: vacation and time for recharging. What I call structured, unstructured time for thinking and creativity. Time to be present, I mean really present, without your phones on. for thinking, for important family or interpersonal issues, like we're doing right now. Sleeping, eating, and exercise, super important. Or major professional obligations and travel. If you don't schedule it, it's not happening. You should be great at these, not just good. You should be great at these, as they will drive your productivity, but more importantly, they will drive your happiness and well-being. Of course, there is no substitute for hard work, and there may be crunch times when you got to grind it out and focus on one thing at the expense of all others. There will be crises. You have to be flexible and nimble. But the defaults are kind of like guardrails on a highway as you're driving down. And they're going to provide longer-term sustainability for you. Work expands to fill the time you give it. And it's a very greedy thing, work. It will take all of it. Counterintuitively, you may need to invest time outside of work in order to be able to get work done at work, because it will give you the energy to do so. Examine your habits carefully, because they are what you end up repeatedly doing. And using the power of the calendar also means leveraging your time. One way to expand time is to increase the output per unit of time input. I've found that there's a few ways to do that. How do you make more time? First, spend time to build a great team that has complementary skills to your own and that can provide leverage to help you execute on your vision. Remember to recruit other people to help you at home or at work so that you can focus on things that only you can do. Secondly, build some skills that help you to amplify your time, such as certain technology tools or critical path management skills or doing things in parallel. Third, manage your energy so that you have the maximum output per unit of time spent. As James Lair wrote in The Power of Full Engagement, that I teach in one of my classes, there are many forms of energy: spiritual, emotional, mental, and physical. But you cannot expend more energy than you have. And energy is needed to get things done on time. So, what are you doing to give yourself more energy? Be aware of certain bad habits or time drains and eliminate or curtail the unnecessary. For example, how much time do you need to spend doom scrolling on social media? It's a really good question. For example, I have learned the hard way that lots of wine and little sleep does not lead to me doing better. Did not improve my total productivity. Leveraging the calendar also means trying to be on time. In many ways, showing up is half of success. Now, it's quite ironic that I say this. When I graduated from college, I asked my grandfather what advice he had for me to be successful in the working world. And he said, the most important thing you can do is to be on time to work. That is not what I wanted to hear, because that is not my specialty, and I was always the last one on the bus in the morning. And to my horror, on my first day of work out of undergraduate, I overslept by 2.5 hours and I was late to work. I arrived at 11. I literally thought I was going to have a heart attack. The broader point for me is that showing up and being fully present when you do is critical. When I was a partner at McKinsey, I developed clients all over the world, far away from Belgium where we lived, places like the United Arab Emirates or Qatar. And part of the reason I was able to do that was that I actually showed up. It was important to just be there. The third and final lesson I'd like to share with you is that your time is yours. So make the most of it. I'd like to talk to you just a minute about the where, when, and who of time. You do have a choice on those three dimensions. Where? Where do you live and spend your time? Where you live and work are key drivers of your well-being as they affect a huge percentage of our waking hours. When? Seems simple, but when will you do things, actually? Should you take a time out, or are you out of time? They say timing is everything. Dan Pink has written a really great book on when. It's called When. Decide when to do things like exercise, read, think, even when you're making a decision, or when you're going to sleep, or not, like last night. I have learned that I write exponentially faster early in the morning after a good night's sleep than if I try and do it as a night owl late at night. That's one of the things I learned about when. I wish I had learned it a lot earlier. And let's talk about who for a second. With whom do you do things? Why? Why do you spend time with them? Invest times in relationship with people you value. One of the best decisions I made in my life was to marry my wife Claire of 35 years. Choose your spouse well, or your loved one. Thank you, Claire. More simply, spend your time with good people. You have a choice. Make the most of the moment. We learn in financial theory about the time value of money. We can discount the cash flows to the net present value with a discount rate, right? The WACC. Not the wine and cheese club at Darden, the WACC, the weighted average cost of capital. The further out the cash flow, the less valuable it is, right? That's what the theory says. We often act as if the exact opposite is true with time. We often assume that the future is more valuable than the present. So we discount the present for the future. Very counterintuitive. The net result of that is that we don't make the most of the moment a lot of the time. Rafa Nadal, professional tennis player and one of the greatest ever, and one of the most fiercest competitors of any sport, on the court or off the court, is said to have commented as follows: play each point as if it is the most important thing in the world, except remember that it isn't. Thus, optimizing your time is a mindset, strongly influenced by who, when, and where you invest it. We live in the now. Can you see the beauty of this moment? Let time stand still. The future and the past are overrated. In sum, view time as an asset. Use the power of the calendar and make the most of your time. My hope for you is that you will have the time of your life in the time of your life. That the portfolio of your time will make you very rich as measured by a great life. Your time is now. Darden graduates, class of 2023, get out there and change the world in the ways you are meant to. There is no time to waste. Thank you very much.